Hello, Meyer. We want to take a few moments to commemorate the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Before we begin, we would like to perform a land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Great, thank you. Now you might be thinking, isn't this normally Orange Shirt Day? What is the difference between last year and this year? Everyone is still wearing orange. In previous years, Orange Shirt Day was created in order to educate people and promote awareness about the Indian residential school system. On this day, Canadians wore orange shirts to draw attention to Phyllis Websted's experience at residential schools, whereby her orange shirt, a gift from her grandmother, was taken away from her on her first day at the school. This year, Orange Shirt Day was evolved into a federal holiday, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And as such, it's important to go beyond commemorating the past and consider how we might participate in reconciliation in the present. Part of this active stance is considering what reconciliation means to you. Here's a short video by artist Isaac Murdoch to get you thinking.
Reconciliation, I think that it really needs to start with the earth. It's the foundation of everything. I want to reconcile with the old growth forests that have been cut down, because some of those trees were thousands of years old. Like, they had so much, like, they were elders, like they were 1,000-year-old elders that got cut down. They had a lot of knowledge. You know, they held the code on how to live with earth, and I want to reconcile with that. I want to reconcile with bird populations that have been wiped out because of climate change. You know, the humans did that. I need to reconcile with that. I want to reconcile with fish populations that have been wiped out because of pollution and microplastics. You know, I think that's important, because the Fish Nation, they have all that knowledge about the water. And it was so important to us as humans to maintain that balance as we walked on this earth. You know, especially with those Fish Nations, because that's an important part of who we are. And I want to reconcile with that. The tar sands, they're going to grow. They're already the largest environmental disaster on the planet. You can see it from the moon. Like, we don't need the tar sands to grow. We need them to heal. And I want to reconcile with that. And last but not least, I want to reconcile with the waters. The lakes and the rivers, the oceans, the ecosystems that were just bursting with life, that were destroyed for development. I want to reconcile with that. I think that those things need to be the basis and the foundation of everything that we do and how we move forward, not only as a country, but, you know, as human beings. And so I think that seriously needs to be the foundation of reconciliation. I think if you take that out of the equation, then you're just creating a disaster. As First Nations people, we are the voice of this land, and our languages are almost being wiped out. I want to reconcile with that. But all of these things that I talk about, you can reconcile in your heart, but it's also reconciling by taking action.
Now that we have heard from Isaac Murdoch, let's consider what Meyer staff and students have to say about their definitions of reconciliation.
Reconciliation means to rebuild on what's been broken, to restore and create bonds based upon mutual respect. I commit to taking care of the land that we stand on and restoring those and taking steps to restore those bonds.
Reconciliation means to me, it's like that Maya Angelou quote, like do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better. And I think that's what reconciliation is. It's just trying to get yourself to the point where you know better so that you can do more in the world. And then I guess I commit to trying to help my students know more about the world and to know better so that when they all leave Meyer and they enter the world, they can do better.
Reconciliation means creating bonds and working to acknowledge and fix past mistakes. I commit to taking better care of the land we live on and reconnecting to the earth, working alongside Indigenous people and listening to their voices.
To me, reconciliation means to understand what has happened in the past and work towards a better future. I commit to listening with an open mind and an open heart and share the new knowledge I gain and do better whenever I can.
Okay, reconciliation means resolving differences, looking to the future and focusing on listening and reading Indigenous voices. And that's something that I commit to, is to continue to learn, accept the past, and move forward on the journey.
Recognizing that you aren't always right and you don't always have to have the last word. Canada, the Canadian government has apologized to Indigenous Canadians for wrongdoing. And now it's up to settler Canadians to behave differently. So I commit to taking action when I can, being open to criticism, and just being humble.
For me, reconciliation can be broken down into two things. First, it starts with acknowledging the mistakes that were made and the pain that was caused. Once that's been done, the second stage is all about rebuilding the relationship that was once there in a peaceful and healing way. I commit to learning more about the issues that Indigenous people face. I'm going to listen to podcasts and watch documentaries where Indigenous people tell their stories. Hopefully from this, I will get a better understanding of the experiences that Indigenous people have and the issues that need to be addressed.
Hello, Meyer Nation. For me, truth and reconciliation is not an event or a single action. I believe strongly that it is being conscious all of the time of what I can do to acknowledge and truly understand how our relationship with Indigenous peoples was damaged and what we must do to repair that damage. However, it is not just being conscious, it is actively and purposefully taking steps in my everyday work to respond to the calls to action. As a lead learner at A.N. Meyer, I am compelled to ensure that collectively we are doing our very best to strengthen our relationship with Indigenous peoples through awareness and reflection. Education is a key part of this process. Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner Murray Sinclair said at the closing of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, "We have described for you a mountain. We have shown you a path to the top. We call upon you to do the climbing." To successfully climb that mountain entails sincere investment in the work, commitment to the time involved, and a deep connection to why the work is so vastly important. I strive to be invested, committed, and connected. And I hope that you do too. Thank you.
In a moment, I will invite each of you to complete your own reconciliation card. But I would first like to acknowledge that for those in our community who identify as First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, today represents something different, something personal. We are thankful that you are part of our community, and if you would like to be connected to support, please reach out to any of our staff because they would be happy to help connect you. Now, to everyone, both those who identify as Indigenous and non-Indigenous allies, I ask each of you to complete your own TRC card as an act of reconciliation. In doing so, we remember the physical and emotional suffering that Indigenous people endured at residential schools, and also identify how we can take an active role in reconciliation. These cards will be collected from each class at Meyer and will be hung at the front of our school. If you would like some ideas, we will close this video with the Truth and Reconciliation's 94 calls to action. These are a great place to begin if this is a new conversation for you. Now remember, as our land acknowledgement suggests, our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples.